This video is going to be based on finding out what data points are in a data set, particularly given information about the mode, median and mean. I want to start the video though by just mentioning range first of all, because this will be mentioned on occasion in these questions. Range basically tells us how spread out our data is, and it's calculated by finding the highest value minus the lowest value. So let's just do a quick example of this. Here's a data set. I want to find its range. Its highest value is 8, its lowest value is 2, so its range will be 8 minus 2, which of course is 6. Here's a second example. The data set has a range of 10, its lowest value is 3. What's the highest value? This is easily calculated. If you know the lowest value and you want to find the highest value and you know what the range is, simply take the lowest value, add the range on, and that will give you the highest value. In this case, that's 13. Here's another example. A data set has a range of 6. Its highest value is 15. What's its lowest value? Well, again, this is easily done. If we know what the highest value is, we can simply subtract the range to find the lowest value. In this case, the lowest value is going to be 9. Okay, so let's proceed to finding a data set from its description. Range won't feature in the first question here, but it'll pop up again a little bit later on, so don't forget about it. And if you need a reminder of what is involved in range, you can always rewind back to the start of this video to remind yourself. So here's our first example. What could the data set be? There are 5 data points. The mode is 2, the median is 4, the mean is 4. So it's not a good idea to just start writing down the numbers straight off the bat. A really good approach to begin with would be to actually begin by trying to illustrate it using a line plot. And we'll start off with a blank line plot and then fill it in based on the description to see if we can figure out what the values should be. So I've drawn a blank line plot and I'm going to use this to help myself figure out what my numbers in my data set should be. So let's look at the description. Well, the mode is 2, so that means that 2 must be there at least twice. So let's put 2 dots in for 2. Don't forget, if 2 is the mode, then 2 should be the most. It should have the most number of points above it. I'm told the median is 4. Now, if there are 5 data points, an odd number of data points, then there is an exact middle value. So I can put a dot confidently on 4. And my mean is 4. Now, the mean being 4 doesn't necessarily mean that I need extra 4s. What it means is that my calculation of mean is 4. And if you recall, our calculation for mean involved 3 pieces of notation. They were summation x, n, and x bar. And whenever I see a reference to mean, I'm always going to go back and use this notation. So we're going to have summation x, n, and x bar. And according to the information, I have 5 data points. So n is 5. My mean is 4. So now I can work out what summation x is. And don't forget, to calculate summation x, I should multiply n by x bar. And in this case, that's going to give me 20. So when I have my 5 data points marked in, they should total up to 20. Let's see what I have so far. Well, I've got 2 and 2 and 4. So far I've got 8. How much more do I need? I need 12 more. So I need to mark in 2 more data points that will add up to 12. Don't forget, when I'm choosing these, I have to bear in mind that 2 must be there the most and 4 must stay in the middle. Take a moment to think about this piece of information and your line plot and see, can you identify which 2 points would be correct in creating this data set? So let's think about the options. Could I maybe, to get 12, put in for my 2 points 4 and 8? Well, that'll be a problem because then I'd have an extra dot on 4, and that would have meant that in the question I would have been told the mode was 2 and the mode was 4, so I don't want any extra dots on 4. Could it be 6 and 6? Well, it'd be 2 dots on 6. I'd have the same problem. Then I'd have a mode of 6 and 2. I don't want a mode of 6, I want just a mode of 2. Okay, could I maybe put in 3 and 9? If I do that, I've got a problem because 4 is no longer in the middle. So my option is to put in 5 and 7. So 5 and 7 total up to 12. 2 is still my mode. 4 is still in the middle of the data set. When you're drawing a line plot of this type, it's a good plan to do it in pencil, because sometimes you might try a combination of values and then realize, oh, that won't work because I've messed around with mode or something like that. So if you've got it in pencil, you'll be able to rub it out and correct it. I'm going to finish that one up then by listing my data set. My data set here is 2, 2, 4, 5 and 7. Let's try a second one. So here's example 2. What could the data set be? There are 6 data points. The lowest value is 1. The range is 5. The data is bimodal. That means there's 2 modes. The median is 4.5. The mean is 3.5. And I'll tell you in advance that all the data points are whole numbers in this case. So again, I'm going to use a line plot to help myself out here. So I expect to have 6 points on my line plot by the end because there are 6 data points. I'm told the lowest value is 1, so that's pretty straightforward. I'll just fill in a 1 there. The range is 5. So if the range is 5, my biggest value must be 1 plus 5, which is 6. So I'm going to put a dot on 6 as well. The data is bimodal, so I'd expect to have 2 columns of the same height with more than 1 data point each, but I'm not quite sure where to put that yet. So I'm just going to put a little star next to that and come back to the mode in a moment. The median is 4.5. Now, I've got 6 data points, so since there's an even number of data points, there's no exact middle. If the median is 4.5, then it's quite possible that I have a value of 4 and a value of 5 in the middle of my data. Of course, if they're both in the middle, then the median is 4.5 because it's between the two of those. So I'm going to say 4 and 5 are 2 of my data points. Okay, so now if my data is bimodal and I have 6 pieces of data and I've only got 2 more points to put in, I must be putting points on top of numbers that I've already marked. So I'll either have 2 1s or 2 4s or 2 5s or 2 6s. I'm not entirely certain yet. I'm going to use my last piece of information to figure this out. The last piece of information is that the mean is 3.5. So again, if I see the mean mentioned, I want to make out my list of information, summation x, n and x bar. In this particular question, there are 6 data points. So n is 6, and I'm told the mean is 3.5. So x bar equals 3.5. And of course, don't forget then I want to multiply n by x bar to work out summation x. And that gives me a total of 21. So my 6 data points all have to add up to 21. So I have 4 of them already. So what do those 4 total up to? So my current total for the 4 points that I've marked in is 16. So I have to mark in 2 more points, and those will have to have a total of 5 to bring me up to the 21 that I need overall. And I want my data to be bimodal. So it seems pretty clear that I should be marking in 1 and 4, because 1 and 4 add up to 5 and they create a situation where my data is bimodal. So let's do one more example, and this time I want to take a slightly different focus. Although before I move on, I want to just make a record of my data set for the end of example 2, which is 1, 1, 4, 4, 5 and 6. And here's example 3. What could the data set be? There are 6 data points. The mean is 13. 3 of the data points are 12, 12 and 15, and the remaining 3 data points are all equal. Now notice this time I don't know mode, I don't know median, I don't know range. It probably won't be hugely helpful for me to draw a line plot because I haven't got anywhere that I can begin with it. However, I can still proceed on the basis that I know the mean. And of course, the second you see mean mentioned, you want to do your summation x, n, x bar. And in this case, n is 6 because there are 6 data points. X bar is 13 because the mean is 13. And of course, then I must multiply n by x bar to get summation x. And that tells me that my values add up to 78. I know that I have the 3 data points 12, 12 and 15. So I can find their total. And this adds up to 39. I have 3 remaining data points and they're all equal. My 6 data points add up to 78. The 3 that I know add up to 39. The remaining 3 so must add up to 78, take 39, which actually just happens to be 39 also. And the 3 data points that are all equal, well, I don't know what they are, but I can give them all the same name. So I could call them x, in which case I have x plus x plus x equals 39. And then a little bit of algebra will get me to my value for x. Don't forget, x plus x plus x is just 3x. And then it's simply a matter of dividing by 3 to get my value for x. So x is equal to 13. Don't forget the question was, what could the data set be? So I must conclude by listing out my data set. And in this case, my data set is 12, 12, 13, 13, 13, 15. For an extra little bit, find the mode and the median of this data set and find the range. Pause the video, check then and see if you're correct. In this case, the mode is 13, the median is 13, and the range is 3.